Hey class, welcome to our second video lecture on persuasive messages. In our first video lecture on persuasive messages, we talked about the four essential elements that all persuasive messages have in common. We talked about how persuasive messages should begin by identifying a problem or need that the reader faces and that the proposal seeks to solve. We should then pivot to the actual solution to that problem or need. Third, we should support that proposed solution with reasoned, logical evidence. And finally, we should wrap up our persuasive messages with a call to action and with goodwill. Now, in today's video lecture, on the other hand, we're going to be focusing on some optional elements that you can use in persuasive messages, depending upon both your context and your needs. And the first optional element, optional approach, involves the direct versus indirect approach to persuasive messages. And this basic distinction should by now be familiar to you. When we've talked about routine messages and bad news messages, we've talked about both the direct approach and the indirect approach. The same basic principle, the same basic division of approaches also pertains to persuasive messages. So you want to take an indirect approach to persuasive messages under the following circumstances. You want to take that indirect approach if your proposal is unsolicited, if your audience hasn't asked for your persuasive message. You want to take an indirect approach if your reader is unaware of the problem that you seek to solve, if your reader, in other words, doesn't know that they have a problem that needs solving. And you also want to take an indirect approach to your persuasive message if the reader is reticent to address the problem that you seek to solve. In other words, if you're writing about a topic that is not going to make them happy. Now, if you do take an indirect approach to writing a persuasive message, the main thing that you want to focus on is convincing your audience that they actually have a problem that needs addressing. And what that means concretely is that you're going to spend a lot of time establishing the reader's problem or need. That's the defining element of the indirect approach to persuasive messages. You want to take a direct approach to your persuasive message, on the other hand, if your proposal is solicited, if your audience has asked for your persuasive message, if your reader acknowledges the problem that you seek to address in your persuasive message, or if your proposal will be easy to approve. And in a direct persuasive message, you want to, yes, address the reader's problem or need, but you can do so much more quickly before getting onto the solution, evidence to support the solution, call to action, and goodwill. Now, key point here. Even if you're taking a direct approach, even if your reader understands and acknowledges the problem you seek to solve, you still want to begin your message by framing the problem that you seek to solve, right? So you still lead with need, whether it's an indirect or direct approach to a persuasive message. And the reason why you want to do this, why you want to identify the problem or need that your proposal seeks to solve, regardless of what kind of approach you're taking, is because how you frame a problem informs how readers perceive your solution. You've probably thought about the fact that how you ask a question informs the kind of answer that you get to that question. The same principle applies here. How you frame a problem will inform how receptive your audience will be to your proposed solution. Now, that's the main option that you've got at your disposal when you're writing a persuasive message. You can choose an indirect approach or you can choose a direct approach. But you've got a variety of other options at your disposal as well. Let's review a few of them. So first, you may supplement your reasoned arguments with other kinds of appeal. In addition to logical appeals, you can appeal to emotion, you can appeal to credibility, you can appeal to a wide variety of different things. But don't worry about those other kinds of appeals too much. Now we're going to be focusing on the variety of persuasive appeals at your disposal in a future video lecture. You may also use your persuasive message to anticipate and rebut counterarguments. In other words, you can try to imagine the potential objections that your reader or your audience might have to your message in advance and address them head on in your persuasive message in an effort to, first of all, avoid awkward questions, but also make your message more compelling and more persuasive. And then lastly, you may write persuasive messages of any length. They can be a few sentences in length. They can be a few paragraphs, a few pages. You can even write an entire book on a topic if you're so inclined. Now, if your message is short, you want to devote the bulk of your time and attention to those four essential elements, right? So the reader's problem or need, your proposed solution to that problem or need, logical evidence, and call to action and goodwill. If your message is longer, on the other hand, you can incorporate signposting, you can incorporate cohesion principles, and any other element that helps structure those longer, more complex documents. Now, that brings us to the end of this video lecture on optional elements that you can use in your persuasive messages. But if you want to see examples of both shorter and longer persuasive messages, please watch my video lecture on persuasive messages 2 examples. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.